Welcome, you're watching our Going Digital series. I'm Shweta Kothari. Joining us today is Dr. Pavan Soni. Dr. Soni is an innovation evangelist. He's also the author of Design Your Thinking, a practitioner of perspectives on how methods and discipline of design thinking can help one become an expert in problem solving. Dr. Soni is an alumnus of IIM Bangalore and is also the founder of Inflexion Point. He teaches currently at IIM Bangalore and ISB Hyderabad and has been consulting global corporations in design thinking. Dr. Pavan Soni, thank you very much for your time. I want to first begin by asking you, sir, what exactly is design thinking and has it become all the more important now in the post-COVID world?
Okay, so what is design thinking? Design thinking is a systematic approach of problem solving. Now, while the word design is so heavy in design thinking that often people get deluded into thinking that design thinking is about designing something new, like designing a car or designing a mug or a pen or anything of that sort. But that's not true. Design thinking is much more about thinking than designing. It's about designing your own thinking. Can you think more systematically? Can you think more creatively? And can you be a better problem solver? So if all of us can become more disciplined as a problem solver, that's what design thinking is all about. And I think where Indians, most of us, will get enormously benefited from is if we can bring discipline to our thinking. So the way I understand design thinking in a very succinct fashion is design thinking is a human-centric, systematic way of problem solving. That's about it. That's the definition of design thinking.
Right. In your book, Design Your Thinking, you talk about skill sets, tool sets that is needed, mindsets that are needed for creative problem solving. If you could perhaps share with us, discuss with us a couple of such tools which may come handy for anyone who is looking at creative problem solving.
Absolutely. So there's a book. I just had the book by my side. This is the book, Design Your Thinking. And the subtitle of the book reads, The Mindset, Toolsets, and Skill Sets for Creative Problem Solving. So let's understand each of these three things. The first thing is a mindset. Now, one of the fundamental mindsets that we have in problem solving is the need to think slow. But this might be very counterintuitive. That how am I suggesting someone to think slow? But what it turns out is that if you have to really solve a problem effectively, you should not think fast. Because when you're thinking fast, you are not even thinking. You're just going through the motions. You're not thinking at all. So slow down your thinking. That's important. Secondly, don't be judgmental. Defer your judgment for as long as possible. Don't be judgmental about people. Don't be judgmental about situations. Don't be judgmental about ideas that other people might have given you. So by not being judgmental, you allow ideas to be entertained for a longer period of time in your mind. That's a mindset that you need to have. A good skill set is listening skill. How to become a better listener? How to become a better observer? For example, Japanese are known to be extremely good observers. And as Akio Morita, the founder of Sony, says that the reason Japanese are very good observers is it goes back to their language. Unlike English, which is alphabets, Japanese language has symbols. And for you to be proficient in Japanese language, you need to be able to make out some very nuanced differences between those symbols. And that's where they're very, very good at observation skills. That's a skill. So mindset is thinking slow. Skill set is good listening and observation. What's a tool set? A good tool set is mind mapping. Mind mapping can be a very beautiful tool that you can possibly use, or drawing your ideas. Usually when we do brainstorming session, we speak our ideas. So instead of speaking your ideas or even writing your ideas, why not draw your ideas as stick figures? That's a tool that you can use. Together with the tool set, skill sets, and mindset, you can end up becoming a far better problem solver, is what I think.
Okay. And who's your target audience with the book? Who are you attempting to impart that knowledge with? Is it just the entrepreneurs, or is it any person who is in the business, and maybe perhaps the student community? I suppose it's every person who would need those skills, tools, and minds to be working and be functioning as efficient people.
Absolutely, you are right. So while the audience could be anybody, my primary audience is the working professional. The people who are, not necessarily running a company, but those are working in the organization. And that is that is the place where you need to apply creativity. Otherwise, life is very boring. If I have a 9 to 5 job and I'm only focused on productivity, then I don't think I am really living to my fullest. I need to find avenues to be creative. I need to find avenues where I can get into the flow. So my primary audience would be the working professionals who can look at every single opportunity as a place to demonstrate creativity. Having said that, I would definitely want entrepreneurs to pick it up, because often I run a company, and one of the myths that we have about entrepreneurship, and I would like to talk about this today in this particular session, is that we often think that entrepreneurship is about taking a risk. That's not true. I don't think it's all about taking risk, because had it been about taking risk, then the people who are taking the highest possible risk would have been great entrepreneurs. But that's not true. Entrepreneurship is not about taking risk. Entrepreneurship is all about being self-disciplined. That's critical here. Can I take an opportunity and try to address it in a very disciplined fashion? And as I said before as well, my biggest ambition as a part of this book project would to bring a sense of discipline to anybody and everybody who would like to be a problem solver. And for the students, I think students today are on the sort of a very crucial juncture to choose whether they would like to start on their own or they would like to knock the doors of large organizations. And why design thinking has become more pertinent is because for the very first time in our collective lives, entrepreneurship, freelancing, gig economy, being your own boss is not only a aspirational thing, it's also much more viable today. It's far more viable in 2021 to be an entrepreneur than 2015 or 2010. And if my book can nudge people who are in that fence, sitting on the fence, whether I should quit my job and start something on my own, if I can nudge them towards the later, which is to start on their own, I think I'll be feeling very blessed. So for all the three communities, entrepreneurs, students, and working professionals, this book would have something to offer.
Right. I wanted to first talk about students. In the post-COVID world, we saw a lot of anxiety within students. Some of them got their offers.
Yeah.
Some of the offers were not really met with the certain expectations that they had. You know, how do students now chalk out a career plan? And you mentioned just a couple of minutes back that it's easy and more viable today in 2021 to be an entrepreneur. What do you tell those students as a professor yourself who are perhaps dismayed with the post-coronavirus sort of a slowdown?
So my recommendation to the students has always been that you should look at entrepreneurship as a viable option, but not on the immediate basis. That's one very important catch. It should not be on the immediate basis. And a good amount of work experience, in my opinion, is about 2 years. Everybody should get at least 2 years of work experience. It doesn't matter where you're working or what money you are making. That doesn't matter. But 2 years of work experience is a must. And what happens in these 2 years is that you really understand two things. Number one, are you cut out to take your life on your own terms? And number two, are you good at getting people to work? Because if you're an entrepreneur, you need to get people to work for you. And if you think that you are not good at any of the two, which is to kind of be self-disciplined, be self-managed, there are people who always want to be told what needs to be done. And they may not make good entrepreneurs, because you're always looking for someone to tell you that now do this and then do this and then that. That's not the entrepreneurial material. Similarly, if you can't get people to work, if you want to do everything yourself, if you can't delegate, once again, you can't be a good entrepreneur. 2 years to maybe 3 years is very good time period for you to gauge whether you would like to grow on as an employee or whether you would like to look at as entrepreneurial track, post which you should really consider entrepreneurship as a very serious alternate. And any part of India, you can be in Bhubaneswar, you can be in Patna, you can be in Jaipur, you can be of course in Bangalore or Mumbai. And if the world is not flat, at least India is becoming so. And I don't see there is any dearth of opportunities anywhere. So 2 years of work experience, serious amount of education, very good education, I mean to say, because education is something that gives you massive premium in your life. And I have witnessed it myself, that how good education can really give you a tremendous amount of benefit in whatever you choose to do, is what I would recommend my students to do.
Right. Dr.
So that's
Soni,
my view.
you've talked a lot about the post-corona world. You've blogged about it. You've extensively talked about it in the past couple of months. I want to understand from you, how should businesses, both the startups and the businesses which established corporate houses, be focusing on right now in these times?
It's a good question again. I think it's a big reset that we are going through. Every recession is a big reset button. Because what happens is that large enterprises are very vulnerable, and startups have a springboard. They can refresh themselves. It's like punarjanam, if I can use the Hindi word. A good recession is a punarjanam. Large enterprises can really let go of some of their vestigials from the past, and small startups can once again be ready to make another set of mistakes. And this can be a very good level playing field. If you look at industry after industry, whether it is about e-commerce, retail, or healthcare, medicine, pharmaceutical, any industry, aviation, travel, automobile, in any industry, we have cases where people have taken this as a great opportunity. Imagine this thing: GM has pulled out of India, General Motors has pulled out of India, and Tesla is entering India. Same country, India. The largest automobile, General Motors, is pulling out of India, and Tesla is entering India. India has not changed so much, but their perspective towards India has changed. GM doesn't think India can make business sense. Tesla thinks India can make business sense. We need more of the later mentality, which is how do you become more opportunistic, because the big behemoths are for the very first time having their vulnerability being exposed. So I think as a large enterprise, you need to pivot. If things are not working, this is a great excuse to shun off things which are not working, and a great excuse to acquire a startup or hire entrepreneurs as in your employees, or maybe venture into some uncontested territories. It's a great reset for everybody for that. But we should really take this as a great opportunity, in my opinion.
All right, great opportunity. You've often talked about innovation. You've talked about creativity. I want to understand from you, what is the assumed added importance of these words now at this point in time?
So, so first of all, let us understand the difference between innovation and creativity. They are not the same. They're two very different things altogether, related but not exactly the same. So what is creativity? Creativity is the act of generating ideas. If you and me are sitting across a table and we are sort of contemplating about something and we come up with ideas, that is what creativity is all about. So creativity stops with ideas. What is innovation? Innovation is the act of commercializing ideas. If we come together and if we are able to ship something out, like thinking about this session right now is act of creativity, but being able to record it, do editing about it, and then shipping it across, that's the act of innovation. And if we are able to commercialize it, that's innovation for us. Now, this time allows us to do two things. One is that it really pushes us to become more creative. As the old saying goes, necessity is the mother of invention. And if I can extrapolate this, if necessity is the mother of invention, timing is the father of invention. And we have the timing with us now. It's the right time for India. It's the right time for our entrepreneurs and our businesses. So we have the necessity and we have the timing also. And we can bring these two things together. See, China is against us. There is a new government coming up in the US. We are reviving from the economic recession. Our schools are getting reopened. Our economy is bouncing back. All of these features is the right timing. It's a perfect wind, if you will, where people can exercise creativity. But at the same time, what we need to understand is the importance of putting dollar value to it. I always believe, and that's what Steve Jobs very famously said, great artists ship. If you're a great artist, you need to ship. Ship means sell. We need to put money onto our ideas. We need to put a premium on the ideas, and we need to commercialize those ideas. And in the same market, which is India, if you can come up with a great product which meets a need, people will throw money at you. You look around how people are keen to go out and spend money. They are keen to accumulate experiences in their life. They're not accumulating more products, more cars, a bigger house, and more furniture. They're accumulating experiences in their life because they know that their life is so vulnerable. The COVID has taught us the vulnerability of our life. So I think if we can double up creativity and start putting a dollar value to it, timing could have been perfect, in my opinion. With a perfect cusp.
Right. One of the questions perhaps that comes to my mind, Dr. Soni, is that those businesses that have in fact not performed very well, and there are a number of, from small businesses to big businesses, a number of them that I have talked about as a journalist that have failed during the last couple of months. How do you tell these businesses to perhaps recuperate now? What would your advice be to them?
It's a good question again. So one of the very famous Austrian economists by the name of Joseph Schumpeter coined a very beautiful term called creative destruction. And he said that every seed of creation has a seed of destruction in it. So these guiles of economic changes, whenever these are winds of economic change, when they come, they always lead some companies to get destroyed so that new companies can get created. Look at the jungles in Amazon. The only reason why jungles in Amazon survive for so long is because of the act of creative destruction. Some trees will fall, and from the debris of those trees, new trees will grow up. The matter is same, the same matter which is getting reconstructed from one type of tree to another type of tree. Correct? Same thing applies to markets as well. When some set of companies die out, it's the same set of people who are the founders of those companies or the former employees of these companies. They're able to recoup themselves, look at new market opportunities, and regrow. Because India, and luckily for all of us, by the way, Shweta, India is becoming a very forgiving economy. India is becoming a very forgiving society. And that's very important for us to remember. Our parents' generation are not so forgiving. If you failed in your marriage, if you failed in your career, if you failed in your class 10th, you are sort of stigmatized for the rest of your life. But that's not true anymore. There's so many entrepreneurs who have messed up and they're still coming in newspapers. There are so many people who have failed and they are bouncing back. We are becoming far more forgiving as a society. And this is the right time for us to realize that maybe the small entrepreneurs do not have to get burdened by some of those uncertainties that led them to shut shop. They can re-emerge in another forms, another shape. And this is the time to do so. And I'm very happy about it because when we have more entrepreneurs in the country, the burden on the government comes down, the burden on large enterprises comes down, adoption of AI goes up, artificial intelligence, because a TCS or a Wipro or Infosys can't keep employing so many people over and over again. They will be taken over by machines someday or the other. So we need more entrepreneurs in this country than somebody who is a good employee per se. And this is a great time to do so.
Mm. And how about entrepreneurs? How about managers like us? How do we stay relevant? Because a lot of people, from my experience, who come with the same experience and skill sets that I do, have been laid off. A lot of people who do not have the jobs, they are 10 years into what they've been doing. They don't see a possibility of starting up now, nor do they see someone hiring them. What should we be doing?
This is a good question. It's a very honest and a very good question. So I, for a very long time, have always been of the opinion that you should never have a single career. Even if it's a great career you should never have a single career. You should always have multiple overlapping careers, multiple careers. Not necessarily every career choice will pay you money. But what you need to learn is that, listen to this carefully, where you get paid from, right? Where you earn from is not same as where you learn from. Where you earn from and where you learn from can be two different things altogether. You can earn and learn from multiple areas. So think of multiple curves overlapping each other, and that's how you have to look at your career. Some will have a turf, second will have a curse at the very same time. We often very naively reduce ourselves to one job as if it's like, monogamy. It doesn't have to be like that. That's not the right, analogy at all to drive. You need to have multiple careers and don't have to wait for the bad times to hit you before you start exploring out. That's one thing. The second thing is gig economy. You are a freelance journalist right now, and maybe that's a career of the future. Who knows that? In the space of journalism, maybe the freelancers would be more respected because of their no biases. If you're part of establishment, you would by design have some sort of a alignment as a journalist. But when you're a freelancer, you might be more ready, more flexible, more adaptive to the new ways of doing things, etc. So for the working entrepreneurs or for the working professionals, what we need to understand is that entrepreneurship is not a job. Entrepreneurship is a mindset, is a way of life. Anybody who goes outside the well-defined roles and jobs expected of them is an entrepreneur, in my opinion. For example, when I was a part of Wipro for about 6 years time, I was as entrepreneurial as I am today. Because every weekend I'll go out and I'll do workshops. I will do teaching. On the weekends, I'll go. On the weekdays after my Wipro working hours, I'll go and do some workshops. As long as I'm doing my work at Wipro, nobody should mind what I'm doing outside my job at Wipro. And that piece became so huge that it gave me the confidence that one day I should just resign from Wipro and write my PhD. And I did so. But when I was in my PhD, once again, I started my company. My boss did not know about that. Boss in the sense PhD guy did not know about that. Now he will because of this interview. Many people at IIMB did not know that I started my company on the sidelines. So I was a student at IIMB. I was running my company on the sidelines. I was working at Wipro and I was researching at the sidelines. Today I'm running my company, teaching, wrote a book, write articles, papers, and all of that is happening as overlap in my life. It's not that I'm in distress right now, but that's how I need to plan my career out. So what I would want you to do is, even if you are within a company getting a salary, nothing should stop you from exercising entrepreneurship, because your day has 24 hours. Your day has really 24 hours and it's your life. And you need to exercise every bit of talent which you have. Whether your current employer wants it or doesn't want it, that should never limit you. The world is your platform. And I mean it because I have been through that and I'm still doing so. The world is your platform and you should be willing to do so.
Absolutely.
And that's the best time to do so, trust me.
Right. Perhaps not settle down with one job that I have. Do have a full-time job, unfortunately. I'm not a freelancer, but I think after your advice, I may just start going and moving towards freelancing. That is the next option, of course, after this. Thank you very much, Dr. Soni. Absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shweta. I appreciate that highly.